right? So once again, colleagues, I greet you, and I would like to kindly welcome you to our AUI3702 tutorial orientation for this semester. My name is Mr. Privilege, and I'm the tutor with Grad Consulting, which is a private tutorial institution. So what we do is we offer tutorial services to students from different levels, be it undergraduate level, at honors level, as well as at master's degree level. So, but I'm going to give some brief details in regards to that as we move along. All right. So before we can actually get into the details of what AUI3702 is all about, because the most important thing is just so that I give you guys a little bit of insight, not so detailed, but just to give you a perspective, right? I first want to explain who Grad is. So as I explained earlier, we are a private tutorial institution, and what we do is we offer varsity tutorial services, and this is for students from undergraduate degree level to all the way to the master's degree level. So we do have people that specialize in different faculties, be it from the EMS faculty, which is the faculty that majority of you falls under, because you're probably studying your BCom in internal auditing, or you're probably studying your BCom in accounting or financial sciences, whichever the case. Then of course we've got other faculties as well, such as BSc and IT faculty, as well as the law faculty. So we've got tutors that that arena. So what is our goal? What is it that we intend to achieve? Students, all right. I'm gonna ask you guys to mute. If you guys on your side, let me just mute you for now. Okay. So our goal is to facilitate and to add value to students, and this is through our style of teaching, and this is through your cooperative interaction with us as well. So it's not just to say, when you have tutorial services being offered to you, you rely solely only on the tutorial services that are being provided to you by the tutors, but you also need to play your part as a student to make sure that at the end of the semester, you effectively achieve the objective in your academics, because it cannot be that you just depend only on attending classes, or you only depend on rely on the notes that are supplied to you by the tutor, but you also need to go and extend further beyond whatever that is given to you, where you actually also dig deep on your own to make sure that you have got an in detail and thorough understanding of the module itself. Right, so it's very, very, very important, colleagues. And then I'm just going to give you a brief outline of the agenda for today. So there are two important things I'm gonna be doing. First of all, is just to outline the module itself. How is it structured? What are the key topics that you guys need to take note of? And also the assignments, how many assignments it is that you will be expected to complete for the purposes of this module. And then I'll also then talk about our services in regards to the module offering itself, and then of course maybe the fees and so forth, right? So, but now without further ado, I'm going to quickly take you guys through the module outline. So we're also going to do a bit of a practicality to all of this. I'm not just going to share theory with you guys without application to it, but I'm also going to show you with a practical example, just so that you can have what I would call a rough perspective of how we teach and whether it is something that is suitable or that matches your expectations in as far as your learning endeavor is concerned. So now, without further ado, colleagues, these are the key topics within this module AUI3702. It's about like 7 essential topics of note, right? So the first topic you have, it deals with the IPPF framework. Oh my goodness. You also find it in your, sorry? I don't know if somebody said something. Okay. So basically, we've got 7 important topics in AUI3702. First of all, we have what you call the IPPF requirements, or the IPPF framework. So with this one, guys, the most important thing that you guys just need to really take note of from there is you've got your two types of components under the IPPF framework. So you've got your mandatory requirements, and then you've got what we call strongly recommended requirements, right? We're going to talk about all of that as we move along throughout the semester. But for now, just to give you just a rough picture of what is happening in topic one, that's all they deal with there. So what type of questions could you possibly expect, be it for assignment purposes or for exam purposes? It will usually be MCQ based, but this concept of IPPF framework, it's not heavily tested in AUI3702. You find it highly tested, especially in AUI2601, AUI3701, and AUI3704. At honors level, you find the same concept again being tested in AUI4861, right? So it's very important you are aware of what I'm explaining to you now. Then in topic number 2, we've got corporate, there's a bit about corporate governance guidance, control-based practice for conducting engagement procedures. Now, topic number 3 is very important in the sense that it deals with the test of controls. So in this module, definitely you'll be expected to compile test of controls. All right, I'm going to talk about the test of controls later on. Then topic 4 deals with internal audit process. Topic 5, developing engagement procedures, very important. Engagement procedures, it's more or less audit procedures. And when you talk of audit procedures, that's where you have test of controls as well, and what we call substantive audit procedures. And with the substantive audit procedures, it goes an extent further where you also deal with what we call analytical procedures. So analytical procedures, in essence, it's part and parcel of substantive audit procedures. But for now, you don't really need to worry about that. I'm just trying to give you guys perspective as to, okay, what should I expect when I'm looking at AUI 3702? Now, before we go far, guys, AUI 3702 is not a module to underrate. You should not look down on this module. A lot of students tend to take it lightly, you know, and it always surprises them at the end of the semester to say, okay, but then I thought I knew this thing, or I thought I got this thing right, but why didn't I really quite make it? So it's very important that you really take cognizant attention to details and also the style of testing that your lecturers actually use. It's very, very important in the way they expect you guys to respond to questions. It's very, very, very critical. Very important topic again in this module is the topic number 6 that you see there, which is developing engagement procedures for the different business cycles. Now, business cycles are the center or the core of this module. So you really need to understand how business cycles really operate. I'm going to talk about that in a bit as we move along throughout the semester, but very important topic number 6, it's NB. You cannot overlook that topic. It's very, very important. But I'm not saying if it's important, then the other topics are not equally important. No, they are also essential, but I'm just saying that this is one of those that you need to give special attention to as well. Then, of course, reporting the results of the engagement procedures. All right, that's topic number 7. So that was just to give you guys an outline of the key topics of note in AUI 3702. Then we quickly go to the assignments. Now, when you look at assignments in this module, you've got 3 important assignments that you guys need to take special attention to. First assignment, usually it's an MCQ-based assignment, right? Now, when it's an MCQ assignment, students tend to take this thing lightly and they'll be like, well, since it's an MCQ, most I can just guess the answers and I will just simply get it right. I won't lie to you, I'll be very honest. MCQ-based questions, they are even more tough than your written or your essay questions. I'll be very honest. Because when you go into, like, for example, when you're with the internal, what you call it, the IIA, Institute of Internal Auditors, SA, the exams that you'll be writing there, I'm actually busy with my board exams with them, by the way. So when you write your board exams there's no essay-based questions you are writing. That side, it's literally MCQ-based questions right through. So It's either you know your story or you don't know your story. If you don't know your story, it means you're going to fail. So never underestimate MCQ-based questions, guys. I'm just trying to warn you, or to also just, make you to be aware when it comes to a certain type of testing, because your exam itself, it's also MCQ-based, slightly mixed up with one or two essay or written-based questions. So you need to really make sure you really know your story when it comes to MCQs. Never take them lightly. That's assignment 1. Assignment 2, from what I've noticed, because remember, there's been a change in structure because of COVID. So if, like, I've been teaching this module for years, guys, from 2017. So I've seen the transition, the changes in the module in terms of how they test you, be it in assignments, structure, or exam structure. I've actually seen the transition. So I quite understand how they test you and how they expect you guys to respond. So when you go to assignment 2, usually it's a written-based assignment. With the written-based assignment, of course, it will not be like a PDF or some tutorial later they'll provide for you to download, like what they used to do historically. So what they do with the second assignment, they'll provide a question on your MyUnisa platform, and you are expected to type your answers on the platform. All right. So it's not like it's a downloadable question as such. No, it's not. It's something that you just need to respond to online. So you'll be typing your answers or your responses online on the MyUnisa platform. So it's very important to also understand this, right? And part of it will be tested in the exam as well. So it's very important to take special attention to assignment 2. It does contribute quite a lot in terms of your final, your module arrangement, or your, what I would call your assessment mark, or your semester mark, so to speak. Very important. Then of course you've got assignment 3, which is just an elective assignment. In case, let's say, you missed assignment 1 or 2, then you need to make sure you also do assignment 3, because they'll take the best 2 out of the 3 assignments that they'll give you, right? So that was just to give you guys some bit of insight in as far as the module is concerned. So what we are offering, just as a bargain, especially for some of you, or for most of you that have joined the orientation, right? We're going to give you guys a 50% discount for assignment 1, all right? And this is only applicable to those people that have joined the orientational session today. So we're going to give you guys some guidelines in how you can go about answering your first assignment. But now, let me just quickly move on with this presentation, then we can do some detailed question together, right? So what is our service offering from Grady Consulting? Very simple. As you can see on the screen, guys, we offer online and physical conduct classes, right? For the purpose of the orientation, because I was just thinking, there are people, there are people from different places. So to ensure that we cover everybody, or rather we account for everybody, that's why we decided to do the orientation online, other than to do it face-to-face. But we do have an office location with the class structure in Pretoria. So we also do offer physical, or what we would call face-to-face classes as well. So for those of you maybe that are in Gauteng, or those of you that are in Pretoria, to be quite exact, you can actually come to our office if you would like to actually attend face-to-face with me. We do offer face-to-face classes. Usually for the face-to-face classes, it happens on weekends, all right? In the mornings, like around this time. But for online classes, we usually offer those during the week, normally after hours. So you find maybe your class is scheduled like for 6 p.m. Maybe it goes all the way up until 7:30. Our classes is like normally 1 hour, 30 minutes long, right? So that we ensure that we cover as much in, throughout the semester, because this semester it's much shorter as compared to the previous semester, by the way. So we need to make sure that we give you guys as much as possible, because there's a lot of work that you need to accept for the module. Then secondly, we also give you guys assignment assistance, or what we call assignment help. We do not necessarily do assignments for you. We ensure that you are part of doing the assignment as well, so that in the same process, it's achieving the process of learning, all right? So we also give you assignment guidance or assignment assistance, and then we give you exam preparation. So we've got packages that are already set in place. It's already available, by the way. So it's a compilation of exam packs and preparatory notes. Let me explain what are exam packs as such. So these are study notes, colleagues. It's a compilation of different questions and solutions as well. All right. And it's possible that if for instance, for a written based question that they can bring, they can maybe pick something from that or something that is more similar. So if they bring something similar or something that is literally exactly the same, and you've got the solution next to you as well, you'll be able to see how they expect you guys to respond. So you are in a better position than somebody that do not have such type of information. Then, of course, there's one-on-one consultations, research guidelines, career guidelines. Okay, fine. Some of those things, they may not necessarily apply to you guys. These are like for first-year students, and some of it is really more applicable to people that are doing their postgraduate qualifications. So that's our service offering, guys. We'll talk about that maybe at the end of the session if you're interested to enroll for that. Right. Then let's see, what else do I need to explain to you guys? Okay, that's our website. So if you want to maybe check around and see what other modules do we offer, you can actually go to our corporate website. You'll be able to see as much details as possible from there. And also, if you would want to enroll or to register for tutorials, you also be able to do the registration using that website link that you're seeing on your screen right now. And then just for administrative purposes, those are our contact details. So if you'd like to communicate with us, you want to make some specific inquiries, you can reach us on our telephone lines and the WhatsApp line as well. And then, of course, those are our corporate email addresses. So if you're interested to communicate with us or to make further inquiries, maybe before you enroll, you can actually get a hold of us in any of those communication handles as indicated on the screen. Right. So we're going to come back to this. So now what I've just done was just to give you guys an introduction of who we are, what we do, what we offer, and also to give you just a little bit of briefing as to AUI3702, what it is all about, how is it structured, what should you expect in terms of assignments, in terms of the content itself. Now, what I'm about to do, I'm about to do something more practical within the next 30 minutes. Something more practical, just so that you can then see my style of teaching. So without further ado, I'm going to explain one important concept to you guys. And that concept I'm about to explain, it deals with one of the questions they normally test. And it has to do with what we call weaknesses. So I'm going to switch slightly and I'll take you to the whiteboard screen. To the whiteboard screen. So now, I'm about to explain one of the concepts which is very, very, very important. Now, colleagues, like I've mentioned, obviously, before I even get into the weaknesses itself, when you're looking at AUI3702, okay. One of the important things that they test you, they will test you on weaknesses. All right? They'll test you on weaknesses in a system description. I'll explain what that means before we can even do any practical question on this. All right? They'll test you on weaknesses, or they'll ask you to identify weaknesses in a system description. Now, when they say a system description, they are simply referring to a case study scenario, right? So a system description is one and the same thing as saying it's a case study scenario that they've provided you in the exam. Now, I'm explaining this because a practical question or an essay-based question, it's one of those you can see, particularly in assignment 2 of your module, or you can partly find it in the exam as well. All right. So that's why I'm explaining this element or this aspect of AUI3702. I'm not going to explain everything, right? So, but now let's get into this concept of weaknesses. What is it all about? Now, for you to be able to understand a weakness, you need to be able to distinguish it from something that a lot of students tend to confuse it with. Okay, I see a question on the chat platform. I'm just going to quickly address it. Okay, yes, for those other modules, Jesly, we're definitely going to have the orientations for them as well. So it will actually take place in the next week. That's when those would take place. So I would send communication in regards to that in the groups as well. Right. So now let me explain something very important, because you see, students from previous semesters, from my experience, I've noticed they tend to confuse a weakness from what is known as a risk. The two are not the same. They sound the same, but they're not the same. And I'll explain to you the key difference between the two. So usually when you are looking at a case study scenario or a system description, all right, where they're explaining what is taking place within a particular organization, one of the important things that you need to understand is if a question asks you for weaknesses, or even sometimes asks you to even give a risk as well, one of the most important formats you can follow is to always begin by identifying the weakness first. When you identify the weakness, it becomes easier to be able to also give out a risk description. And so question is then, what is the key difference? All right, what is the key difference between a weakness and a risk? So I'm going to quickly outline the differences between the two. So on the one side, when you're talking of weaknesses, guys, it simply means two things. One, it means there are missing controls, or rather, let me start with the first one to make it easier for people to understand. All right, it means two things. One, there are existing controls which are inadequate. So we call this inadequate controls. So inadequate controls means these controls are in existence, guys. They are in existence within the organization. I'll give you examples as we move along. And then another way you identify weaknesses in a system description is where there are missing controls. Missing controls. So missing controls, these are non-existing controls, guys. All right? That's what it means. These are non-existing controls within the system or within the case study scenario that you've been provided. So that's two ways you identify weaknesses when you look at a system description in a very simple way. And then another important aspect you need to take note of when you give your risk description, so your weakness description or statement, so to speak, there's a certain way that they expect you guys to structure your statements. And that's why a lot of students tend to miss it, because they don't structure their statements of a weakness correctly or as expected according to the standards of your lecturers. And that's where a lot of people tend to miss marks. You could be in the right track, but it's just an issue of how did you portray your statement, or how did you portray the weakness statement that is expected by the lecturer. So it's very important, and I'm going to explain that to you shortly. Then let's then look at what a risk is, because we say the two are not the same, okay? And how do we distinguish between the two so that we don't miss or lose marks? So now, on the one side, I'm going to explain a risk, and I'm going to use the red color. Now, guys, a risk can be explained from several angles. How it is distinguished from a weakness statement is that with a risk, all right, number one, it can refer to, in a simple term, what could go wrong. What could go wrong? That's a risk, guys. A weakness, we are saying, okay, two things. Controls are existing, but they're just not achieving the desired purpose. What do those controls refer to? Those are inadequate controls. So if we are not achieving the intended purpose with a control measure that you have in place, what could then go wrong? That's a risk description. It could also refer to what could be the impact. And the impact, remember, it's consequences as well. The impact could also be the effect. that, you know, that a weakness has in how a business do or perform their operations. Okay, another way you can also explain a risk is just basically the undesired outcomes. Another way you can explain a risk is basically the threats to the business. All right. It could also be hindrances to achievement of certain objectives. All right. That's a risk there. So look at the two and you can quite clearly distinguish between them. A weakness, two things: inadequate controls, meaning to say the control is in existence, just not achieving the desired purpose. Or it could be that they do not even have control measures at all altogether. So if they don't have control measures at all, it simply means then we have a weakness there. So if that is the condition, all right, if that is the condition that we are having in the organization, what are the risk exposures, all right, that we as a business have or are facing because of the currently existing condition? So then we begin to think of things like what could go wrong. We begin to think of the impact that this condition has to our business, or the impact that this condition has to a specific function that we are performing. Why I'm saying function is because remember, you are going to deal with business cycles. So when you're looking at business cycles, it's basically, separated in what you call functions, or what you call stages or phases within the cycle. All right, just so that you understand. Okay, fine. Let me just maybe give it an example. I'm just going to use one cycle just to illustrate. If you are selling a product, guys, if you're selling a product, what you're simply deploying there, it's called revenue and receipt cycle, right? If you're selling a product, right? I'm just illustrating this just so that I give you perspective, right? If you're selling a product, definitely it means, yeah, following a revenue and receipt cycle. So if I'm looking at a revenue and receipt cycle, it will have specific functions, or what I call stages, phases within that cycle. One of the phases is that definitely we're gonna perform ordering. And this is basically processing a customer order. All right. Once we have actually, if the customer is placed the order, the next thing that we need to do, obviously, is to deliver the order, right? Okay. I'm just illustrating. I'm not saying these are actual specific functions, but I just want to show you activities that take place when you're selling a product. So a person orders a product from you. The next thing you deliver the product, and maybe in certain instances, you might then invoice them afterwards. All right. And then you have, a recording there somewhere where you now begin to record the transaction. And then fifthly, maybe the person then begins to pay. So I'll call this one receipt. All right, of PMT, meaning to say payment. Now, these are activities, guys, that are taking place when you are selling a product to someone. So in the process of selling a product to someone, for the activity to be achieved correctly or accurately, there has to be some form of controls that you put in place. Like, for example, if a customer is to place an order, it's imperative that the customer has to fill the details of the order in what we call a customer order form, which is a document that acts as a control measure during the ordering stage or during this ordering activity. Otherwise, if you don't have it, how do we really know that an order really took place between the organization and the customer? You see, so if we don't have such, then it means those are missing controls within the ordering function. But we can also have an actual customer order that is used, so where a customer fills in the details of the order, but if it is not sequenced, so let's say, for example, it doesn't even have a document number on it. Guess what is happening there? It means that control is inadequate. You see that? That control is inadequate. Why? Because the customer order form is not properly or adequately sequenced. So that's an inadequate control. And if it's an inadequate control, that attributes to what we call a weakness statement. So if we have, let's say, for example, we have a customer order form that is not sequenced at all right? What is the risk then that the company is exposing itself because of that condition? That's where a risk description comes in. That's where things like what could go wrong comes in. That's where things like undesired outcomes, impacts, effects to the organization comes in. Now, I'm going to say this to you. When you're dealing with questions like this, guys, all right, and this is something I've learned even at my undergraduate level. One thing that I've understood about auditing, it's like this. And I'm going to give you this tip to prepare you for any other auditing module you're going to do. And this is just not only for AUI3702. Auditing is equals to this. Let's show you. This is the secret. I'm giving you cherry on top of the cake right there. Auditing is equals to thinking, but thinking based on principles. That's it. Right there. Thinking based on principles. So what I'm showing you now, when I'm explaining a weakness, when I'm explaining a risk like I'm doing right now, that's the principle. So it's not like when they ask you for weakness or when they ask you for a risk, they'll give you the risks or they'll give you the weaknesses directly to you in the case study scenario. No way, Jose. What they simply do is they give you a scenario with indications that, okay, things are not being done right here. So you'll be able to pinpoint the red flags, okay? And by the way, that's another terminology for the weakness, is also a red flag. Okay. So they'll give you those things that just shows you, okay, this is an indicator, right? When you look at that thing that is not being done right, you give the weakness statement, then they ask you for a risk. A risk they will not tell you directly in the scenario. What you need to do is to think out of the box, practically so, logically so, to say, okay, fine, if we are not doing this in real life, all right, you've got customers that are ordering goods to the company, but they are documented. The customer order forms are not numbered. They are not documented. I mean, sequentially, referenced at all. So what could be the risk exposure which the company is opening itself to from a practical perspective? So when you give your risk statements, your risk descriptions, they must be logical. They should be practical. It should be something that, I mean, if somebody who is not an auditor is to look at this and they match it to the weakness that you have given, they will be able to say, well, what you're saying makes sense, because this is what management will be looking at. As an auditor, when you give them a weakness statement, you give them a risk they are opening to themselves to because of the condition they are having in their business. It has to make logical sense. Otherwise, to management, it will be like, okay, what you're telling us is not adding value. That is if it is not logical, that is if it is not practical, and that is if it is not cost effective. Because from management's perspective, they are looking for things that help them to save money. They are looking for things that helps them to have solutions to the currently existing problems in the business. So whatever you give as an auditor, when you're analyzing whatever angle of the business, be it from a revenue receipt perspective, be it from acquisitions and payment perspective, be it you're dealing with the human resource and payroll cycle, you should be able to think from a logical and a practical perspective. Whatever you give them has to add value to them. That's what auditing is all about, guys. So I'm just trying to, to help you guys to see the perspective there. Now let's come back to our weakness, because remember, this is what I'm addressing, but I'm also bringing other elements so that you can have perspective, all right? And very important, so you can really understand what a weakness is. So now I'm going to show you my notes on weakness. I've already drafted notes on that, which is a PDF document. So I'm going to show you quickly the whiteboard screen. Just a second, if you can. Not on the whiteboard screen. I'm going to show it on the PDF platform. Right, so I'm gonna switch screens briefly. Right, So these are my notes, guys. So for most of the topics, I have notes that are in PDF already, or some they're in PowerPoint, whichever format, but it's something that you can also use just as your guide to do your personal study. I do not want students to solely depend on notes that I provide them. You also need to go and extend further as a student to study on your own to make sure you have perspective of what is expected of you. Because otherwise, if you just only depend on notes and you don't study, you can pass, but you may not pass to the way you want. Because yes, the notes that I give, it's things that are relevant. Now, when it comes to writing weaknesses, guys, there are ways they want you to structure your statements. So you use the following phrases or the following words when you're starting your weakness statement. So you use words like the inadequate, lack of, no, or non-existing. There's another one that I omitted, which is poor, and then you explain the weakness statement. So these are words that they want you to use. So these are the words that we say, and then we add an appropriate control activity. So if I'm saying inadequate, it could be inadequate safeguarding of assets. If I'm saying lack of, it could be lack of independent checks. Now, these are what we call control activities. So control activities, these are specific control measures that management would have put in place. And those are the ones we are assessing. If I'm looking for a weakness, those are the ones we are assessing whether they are inadequate or whether they are just non-existing. In other words, they are missing controls. All right. But not only do we just leave it at adding the control activity, we need to get to be very specific. Why? Because in the scenario, they will give you specific details. So if it's something to do with safeguarding of assets, there are different types of assets that a company has. So it could be actual stock, meaning inventory, or it could be PPE assets. It could be anything else, you understand, that is attributed as an asset to the organization. All right. So when you're safeguarding of assets, you need to be very clear, okay, to the lecturer that, okay, this safeguarding of assets is actually safeguarding of this type of an asset. So in this context, I gave an example with inadequate safeguarding of stock. So stock is the asset there. All right. And the stock, obviously, normally we find it in the storeroom, or sometimes you find it in the warehouse. All right. So it all depends with what is given in the scenario. But critically, what is important is how do you start your statement? What do you add to your statement? Very important. How you start your statement, what you add to your statement, but with specificity. Very important, guys. Please take note of this. If there's anything you can take from these notes, is when you're starting a weakness statement, know how to start your statement. That's number one. What do you add to the statement with specificity? All right. Because in the exam or in the assignment, they can just simply say identify and explain the weakness. So if they say identify and explain the weakness, what do they really mean? You need to understand what it means. Sometimes they can simply say identify weaknesses. They don't say explain. All right. But if you are smart enough, my advice is explain it so that it really makes sense to the lecturer. All right. So there are two ways, remember I told you, of identifying weaknesses. It's either it's missing controls, or that the controls are in existence, but they're inadequate. So let's look at a scenario where they are missing controls at all. So the controls are not in place. So how do we start or structure our weaknesses? We start the statement by saying lack of, and then we specify the missing control. We specify the missing control with specificity. All right. Or you can start your statement by saying no, and then you specify the control that is not in place. So it could be no access controls to the warehouse section. It could be non-existing access control to the warehouse section. So we have to be very specific. So what am I doing when I'm saying, all right, you start your word by the weakness statement by saying lack of, and then you specify the missing control. What you're simply doing there, you are identifying the weakness. That's all you're doing there. You have not even yet started explaining the weakness itself. So if I'm saying inadequate safeguarding of stock in the storeroom, what have I done? I've simply identified the weakness. I've not explained it. If I say lack of independent checks of stock counts, what have I done? I've simply identified the weakness. I've not yet explained it. But the moment I begin to explain it, this then happens. This is where I begin to add a little bit of more information. A little bit of more information coming from where? Coming from the system description they've given me, or coming from the case study scenario that they've provided to me. Do you understand? So, for example, let's illustrate with the first one. So it said inadequate safeguarding of stock in the storeroom. Why am I saying that there's inadequate safeguarding of stock in the storeroom? Then when I explain that weaknesses, now I add information like, as the door is always unlocked. So if the door is always unlocked, it makes sense that, okay, so they are not safeguarding their stock in the storeroom properly. Now, if they ask me to give a risk based on that condition, I need to think, okay, so if you are not keeping the door unlocked all the time, what is the danger that you're opening yourself to from a business perspective, in a practical perspective? Now, that's a question I'm having for you. What is the risk there, guys? If you've got inadequate safeguarding of stock in the storeroom, as the door is always unlocked, what is the danger? What could go wrong if the condition continues that way? Yes, please, you're more than welcome to respond. Yes, I'm listening. Is it Shelley? Please go ahead. There's no wrong answer. It's better to attempt than not to attempt at all. When you attempt, you get to actually learn. I love interactive sessions. I do the same with the honors students as well. That's how people get to learn and understand things better. So please give it a try.
If the door is always unlocked, there's a possibility of theft.
Theft.
Stock can be stolen.
Exactly. So there's a possibility, or the rather, yeah. So when you give them, I'll talk about how you structured the risk, but it's okay. Yeah. Somebody wanted to say something? Please go ahead. It's fine. Okay. So yes, there's a possibility of theft taking place. So that obviously will be, you know, the danger that the organization is opening itself to because of this condition, or because of this weakness, or because of this red flag. What else other than theft can take place there? The door is always unlocked. Yes, we can have theft, but what else? If the door is always unlocked, there's another thing there other than, you know, theft that can happen. Because if it's a warehouse section, who are the people that should be granted access to the warehouse section, guys? It's obviously the people that works in the warehouse. But if the door is always unlocked, who else can get into the warehouse?
Anyone.
Maybe even the unauthorized people that they are not supposed to.
There you go. There you have it. That's it. Unauthorized access to the storeroom, right? And then you can add to it by then saying if there's an authorized access to the storeroom, it will ultimately result in theft of stock. Do you see it now? Some I think are having challenges with their network. Okay, no, it's still okay. I think you can still type your response, maybe say in the chat platform. I think that can also be viable, so that, you know, we can have that interaction. All right, now let's look at the second one. Let's look at the second one. Non-existence of authorization controls for credit sales. Okay, because the cashier gives the customer goods on credit without the knowledge of the manager. Now, guys, I want you to think out of the box here. So there is no authorization of credit sales. The cashier is just simply selling the goods to the customers on credit, by the way, without even the knowledge of the manager in this case. So what do you think is the danger, or is the threat that is raised because of this condition to into this business? What is the risk over there? To make it easier, when you give risk descriptions, usually you should start your statement by saying there is a risk that, and then you begin to explain it. Yeah. What is the danger?
I think there is a risk that maybe the cashier can sell the things that are. Oh, it can,
You can sell the what?
Imali say, I want to think first.
Oh, okay. No, it's fine. You're more than welcome. No, you know, I like it when students actually want to attempt the question, because that way, even if you are wrong, okay, even if you are wrong, that's where you learn. It's when you attempt, you see, when you attempt something, especially from this academic perspective, when you give an attempt to a question, it's better, because guess what? Even if you get it wrong, you will never forget it, and you'll never get it wrong, be it in the assignment, because you know now, oh, so this is how I'm supposed to do it. Oh, this is how I'm supposed to respond to this. You will never get it wrong when you attempt questions. Trust me, you will never get it wrong. So
Okay.
give it a try again.
Okay. There is a risk there that the cashier may give the people that are not qualifying to the credit.
Exactly, right. I think we just maybe need to fix the wording, but I can see the point you're trying to make, and it's quite relevant. So what you're saying is there's a risk that the cashier could sell goods to customers who are not credit worthy.
Yes. Okay.
Right? Or it could be that there is a risk that the cashier could sell goods to customers that are not able to pay, resulting in financial losses to the company. Because first of all, think about it this way. If a customer fails to pay you, or if a customer is not credit worthy at all, would you be able to recover the money? No. The goods you have sold to them, remember you paid something to buy the goods yourself before you sell it to the customer. So obviously, if the person is not going to pay you for the goods you've already given to them on credit, that's a financial loss to you. So that is the resulting effect of, you know, having circumstances like this. All right. So guys, that was just to give you a practical perspective of how, you know, for instance, how a weakness statement is supposed to be structured, and you know, to also give you a little bit of insight when it comes to risks, right? And I was showing you all this to say this, and but I'm not going to do the question with you in this session. I'm not going to do that because I wanted to make sure that we keep our session to a maximum of 1 hour. But this is something that we will deal with, suppose with some of you that maybe would decide to enroll with us, right, for the tutorials throughout the semester. This is one of the questions I will deal with you, that I will do with you guys. It came as an assignment, by the way. This question that you're looking at, it's a 2020 exam, but it came in the assignment, I think, last year. It was one of the assignments they did. This particular question I'm looking at, it was the second assignment, actually third, because there was a slight change in semester structure in 2021. So they had 4 assignments, but this year, you know, they reverted back to 3 assignments, all right? So, but in any case, it was a practical question that they brought, all right? And look at the questions they were asking. I just want to show you just a practical perspective of how weaknesses can be tested in a practical sense. So in 1.2, they ask, describe 8 weaknesses in the above system. And look at the mark allocation, 12 marks. And then they say for each of the weaknesses identified above, compile an appropriate recommendation to improve the identified weaknesses. Normally when they ask for recommendation, and maybe they want you to structure your answer like this, a recommendation is the same thing as give a control measure. That's what they are asking. But guys, that's one way they can test you when it comes to weaknesses. Sometimes they can ask you to say, for the identified weakness, give a risk. So other than giving you a recommendation, I mean, requesting you to give a recommendation, they can request you to also give a risk that tallies or that is aligned to the weakness that you've identified. But this is something that I'll do with the group that is going to enroll, so that I can show you the application of the concept that I was teaching you from here. Because when they're asking you to describe, guess what they're saying? They're saying this. Explain a little bit more. So yes, you first do one thing. You identify the weakness by starting a statement like that. You add the control activity with specificity. Then you explain a little bit more. When you do that, that's you describing the weakness. That's you explaining the weakness statement as requested by the examiner. So it's very important, but that's something I'm going to do from a practical perspective when you guys decide to enroll with us. Now, you might be having a question maybe to say, okay, so how does this tutorial thing work? What is the pricing fee for this? How many classes are you guys having per week? How often do we meet and all that? If you've got questions like that, I think at this point, I can be taking questions from you guys. Any questions?
Yes, what you just said, how many modules how many classes you offer weekly?
Beautiful.
And what are your fees? Yeah, all those things that you mentioned.
Okay.
I think all of us would like to know all of that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so how it works, I think let me start before we go to the pricing. Let me explain the service. So in essence, we have two groups, okay? There are two groups. Some of you prefer to attend during the course of the week. Some prefer to attend over the weekends. This is what I've experienced in the previous semester and the other semesters. Sometimes you find students that are only available on weekends. Some they are only available during the week. So I had to separate the groups. But initially, when I started, like in the last semester, we were having two sessions. So there was the weekly session, and it was then continued over the weekend. That's how it used to be. But I realized that, okay, there was a clash because some people would say they're only available during the week, and some they would say, no, they're only available over the weekend. So I had to separate the groups into two. So so in that case, it means there's only one session per week, depending in which group you are in. And each session is 1 hour, 30 minutes long. So one group is the online session during the week, and the other one is on the weekend. So that one, there's two options. You can come physically if you want, if you're in Pretoria, or we can still do the online session as well. So that's in terms of how many sessions we do. So there's one session per week, and you'll be allocated in the group based on your preference or availability. Right. And then what was the other question again? Oh, the fees. The fees. Okay. So in terms of the fees, how I structure my
Yeah, you said before you go to
the fees.
The fees.
Yes. There's another question I think that you guys imposed. I know it was about the number of classes, and I think I've explained that one. What else?
Yeah, you did. You did.
Yeah, then your network is really bad. Are you able to maybe type it on the chat? I think it can be easier for me.
You said you wanted to highlight that before you could go to the highlighted all the questions.
Yes, I would like to, yeah. So I think the first question, it was about the number of classes per week. That one I've already addressed it. I don't know if you guys were clear on that one.
Very clear, understood.
Then what is the next question again? Just so that I can address every other question.
Oh, you said that we will find the other modules that you offer on the link, right?
On the link to the website. Yes, on the link to the website. If maybe let's say your module is not on the website, that's where the admin comes in. So when you contact the admin, they'll be able to advise whether or not we offer the module or we don't. If we don't, usually we can give a reference to another institution that offers the module if we ourselves don't offer it. So there's that level of transparency, just so that, you know, we can't say that we offer something only to discover we don't necessarily have somebody that is teaching that. It's quite unprofessional. So we'll be very transparent with you in that regard.
Okay, so can we go to the fees now.
Yes, the fees part. Okay, good. Guys, for me, when I look at the quality of service, my standards, I think they're quite fair. I don't want to say it's the best, but I think they're fair. In terms of the fees, the semester fees, we charge for the full tutorial package, it's 1,500 rands. Now, in the 1,500 rands that we charge as a semester fee, what it would include this package. So there's tutorial classes, which is your normal weekly classes. There's assignments included as well. So I will assist you throughout with all the 3 assignments. All right. And then I'll also give you a package that normally we charge separate. You see this exam preparation package, we normally charge it separate towards the exams. So there are students that usually come around that time and stuff, but it's not as advantageous to only attend exam preparation. Somebody that has been attending classes throughout the semester is better equipped when doing this, because most of the stuff that I'll be teaching there, because we do a lot of questions during exam prep. So I would ideally advise somebody to take the full tutorial package, because then the exam prep itself will be more beneficial. So you get that as well. So, but the notes, obviously it's included, it's part of it. And then the rest of the other packages is also involved. So if I'm to see someone one-on-one, it has to be by appointment. It's not just like somebody just said, yeah, I'm here at the door now. You see, you have to make an appointment to make it easier for me. But in essence, that's what it offers. I mean, so that's how it is structured. A question now you might be having is, how do we pay, right? Is it a once-off payment, or do we have maybe a payment structure that is available to say, maybe I pay a deposit and then I can pay the balance monthly or so? So, right, in terms of the method of payment, there are 2 ways. If you want to pay once off, if that is entirely up to you, it's okay. We don't have a problem with that. But I think we are human enough to understand that sometimes not everybody may have the amount in totality to pay for the tutorials, because you have other subjects you are doing perhaps. So what we do is we have a payment structure where you can pay a deposit payment for this module. So your deposit payment, upfront payment, is at least 400 rands as your deposit payment, right? And then you have to settle your balance monthly, but your balance should be fully settled by the month end of October. Everything should be fully paid by month end of October. That is the condition. If you're going for the payment arrangement on a month-to-month basis, everything should be fully settled by the month end of October. And why I'm saying month end of October, because by the time we get into November, exams will begin. And also at that time, we are already busy with exam preparation. So we also want to try and deter the risk of giving a full service to a client and then the client does not pay for it. Like what we were dealing with earlier when we were looking at the weakness here, to say you sell a product to a client who is not credited with. So we are also trying to deter risks of that nature. That's why we have the cutoff as October month end. So that is for the full tutorial service. We also have separate fees for assignments, for example, if you want to buy assignments. So for assignment 1, I charge a standard of 200 rands. For the essay-based assignment, it's 250. Third assignment is 200 rands. That's the fees in terms of assignments only.
Okay, Mr. Privilege, I wanted to ask before I got cut off.
Yes.
If let's say I'm doing more than one module with you guys, so each module is 1.5. Is that what you're saying?
At third year level, yes, it's 1.5. But
at third year,
yeah, at third year level. If it's a second year level, it's a different fee. I think it's 1.3 or 1.2. I'll confirm with the admin in that regard. I'll confirm.
Is it like, I want to understand 1.3 or 1.2? Is it for each module? Like, for instance, let's say maybe I'm doing text also. It's going to be 1.3 also.
Okay, yeah, it will be for it will be for each individual module. But what we also do then, if a person is taking 2 or more modules with us, definitely you'll get a discount for that. We cannot be charging you 1.5 for each module. So let's say, for example, it's 2 modules you're taking with us, that's 3,000. We cannot charge you 3,000 entirely. I will definitely give you a discount. So you might find out that if let's say, I'm just going to give that as an example. I'm not saying it's like that. So let's say it's 2 modules, that's 3,000. So if we give a discount, you find maybe you're only paying 2.7. So we give maybe like a discount of 150 per module, ultimately becoming 300 rands discount. So you end up paying 2.7 for the 2 modules. So the more the modules you take, the higher the discount as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's fair enough.
No, it's fair.
Yeah. One thing for sure, you'll be happy with the service. It's top notch. Any other question, colleagues?
Sorry, sir, are you doing the orientation for Fact 2 and Text 2?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a tutor specifically for that. 2 separate tutors, my apology, who are going to anchor those orientations. I'm gonna speak with the admin on that regard to say when are they hosting. Because myself, primarily, I specialize a lot with auditing. That's my area, because yeah. But then we have other colleagues we work with that specifically deal with other modules like that. So I'm aware there are orientations that are gonna be hosted for those modules as well. So I'm gonna inquire on your behalf. I think if you speak to the admin line, we'll be able to assist you accordingly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Any other questions, colleagues? Going once. Going twice. All right, it looks like there's no questions. All right, if there's no questions, guys, at this point, I think we've come to the end of the brief orientation. And then in terms of official classes commencing, they will commence in this coming week, and we will share the timetable. Even also in the orientational group, we'll share the timetable there just so that you guys are aware of when the sessions are taking place, and also we can be able to group you accordingly in terms of the weekly group and maybe the weekend group as well. So we'll be able to have that structure in place within the following week. Other than that, I will share the recording with you guys. It will be on our YouTube channel. I'll share the link specifically in the group. So thank you so much, colleagues, for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
For those of you interested to join with us or to enroll for classes, please
Thank you.
send us a WhatsApp, yeah, and then we'll take it further from there. Awesome. Thank you so much, colleagues. Have a good one. Cheers.